You're listening to the Sustainable Angler Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Crawford. In this episode, I interview Lucas Bissett and Paul Moinester, who are launching a brand new project called Conservation from the Couch. Lucas, take it away.
Every morning we wake up and it feels like we're on an alien planet. Captain's log. Quarantine day, who the hell knows? We're tracking the movements of two dog hair tumbleweeds from quadrant living room to planet kitchen. We have our phasers set to stun. They could be hostile. If your days are going anything like ours, we could all use some much needed human interaction and connection to our angling community. Lucky for you and those pesky tumbleweeds, Moldy Chum and the American Fly Fishing Trade Association are teaming up on a new series we are calling Conservation from the Couch.
So love this, Lucas. When you sent me that text last week, I was like, this sounds awesome, because myself included am one of those people that's looking for ways to still be able to not only interact with my community and other people, but also in like trying to make an impact, right? In a positive way. So conservation from the couch sounds like a perfect vehicle to do that. So I wanted to get Lucas, tell me more about the background on how this project came about.
Yeah, so one of the things that I thought has been really interesting around this entire situation that we've been a part of is that one of the things that you can do as an American citizen right now to make a difference is to stay on your couch. And so I thought, okay, well, if we can stay on our couch to try and save lives, then we should be able to stay on our couch to try and conserve our fisheries, or at least learn more about it. Yep. And so Paul and I were working together on this thing, and we started talking. And I mean, right now, a virtual event is all you have an opportunity to do. And so we were wondering, how can we stay in connection with the people who we know are out there kicking butt and taking names, and just make sure that we're paying attention whenever it's easy to lose focus. And so that was kind of the start of it. And so Paul and I got on the phone, and this little baby just popped out. And I know I'm extremely proud of what I hope it to become. And Paul, if you have any more to add to it, great. What are your thoughts? Is that sort of how you recollect?
Yeah, no, that's right. And I mean, I think it's important, we're all sitting on our couches. We're all doing various activities, from watching Tiger King to tying flies. And so what we were trying to do is figure out how we could get folks who care a lot about these fisheries not only connected and foster the community that we have so often in fly shops and events that are going on this time of year, but also importantly to give people an avenue to make a difference and fight for their fish. We're also pretty excited about the fact that, we do these types of events a lot, but they're generally not virtual. They're done in areas. And so you go into California or Florida and you do an event, on a specific issue there. And we're pretty pumped about the prospect of being able to bring these local NGOs, these local guides, and fly shops to a national audience. To paraphrase Thomas Friedman, the fly fishing world is flat these days. Just because you live in California or Washington doesn't mean you don't care about redfish or stripers and vice versa. And so we're pretty excited to use the unfortunate reality of this pandemic to bring people together in a virtual way and create a national community of fishermen and get them connected with local NGO leaders across the country.
No, that's fantastic. And I love that because, it's just as you said, I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I know Lucas is in Louisiana. Paul, I'm actually not entirely sure what part of the country you're in.
Based in Seattle, yeah.
Okay. So you're based in Seattle. So we're all sort of in these different pockets of the country. And to your point, even though I've never caught a steelhead or have even been steelheading, I care about those fish because they're an indicator species of the health of our oceans, which impacts us all. Similarly, I have fished in Louisiana, and we have redfish here too. I don't think we don't grow them quite as big in Charleston as they do in Louisiana, but I care about those fish just as much as the redfish here. And I think that's really, really cool that y'all are doing this. And also, on a positive note, as we're all sitting here, as you said, watching Tiger King, I personally have built a personal beach in my backyard that I'm calling Crawheedy. So I'm losing my mind. So it is using this as an opportunity to bring the community together, which I think is really needed. People need interaction. And so kudos to y'all. I think that this is going to be really great.
Thanks.
That sounds, thank you. Appreciate it. And when this pandemic changes and the fisheries in Washington open, it'll have to get you out there. And I invite people to go steelheading all the time, but I tell them come up to Washington and we'll go fishing, but don't plan on catching any fish. So,
hey, I'm used to that. So no worries.
Perfect.
Rick, I think something else that's important to note is that there's two things that I know to be true about our industry. One is that it's always a party. We always have a good time. And that's something I absolutely adore about this industry. And the other thing is that I think the driving virtue of everyone I know is about conserving our fisheries and protecting it for the future. And so this is a marriage of those two things. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to have a good time. This is like Jimmy Fallon meets The Office meets National Lampoons, but with a clear and precise message that I hope resonates with everyone. Because look, the beauty of this is that, like Paul said, we have an opportunity here like we've never had before, where we have a captive audience, more or less, and an audience that is looking for ways to find distraction in what can only be described as hopefully the worst situation we're going to be in a long time. So if the first goal is to make people laugh, the first goal is to bring some enlightened humor and a little bit of levity to all this. And then the second is to get that message that resonates with all of us, which is sustainable fisheries. I mean, hell, we're on the sustainable angler. I mean, what better way to sort of sum up what it is that we're working on? Where it's just something that is true to all of us. And so I want to bring people together and laugh and enjoy ourselves, and then say, hey, what is it that we can do right now from the couch to be vigilant and make sure that these things are still protected, even whenever we're sitting here in the midst of some dark days.
Yeah, and I think that's so important too. As someone who's wrapped entirely in conservation and things related to climate change, and you get beat over the head with this stuff enough, and to the point where some people start to tune out. And I'm really cognizant of that, and I try to. Through my podcast, I do try and share success stories or things that are inspiration, but I know there's not enough humor in my podcast. So this is another, I love this approach and this angle because it is just, it can be so overwhelming, I guess. And if you can't sort of pick it apart and either laugh at yourself or laugh at some components of this, while also realizing that these are serious issues, that should be taken seriously, but you don't have to, beat yourself up all the time about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're in the middle of a global economic collapse. The last thing we need to do is, depress people even more with some bad things that are going on with the state of our fisheries. The reality is that, there's a lot of success stories. And one of the things that Lucas and I work a lot on is the Magnuson-Stevens Act, which we jokingly call it the most successful, least well-known conservation law in the country, because most people haven't heard of it, but it's been responsible for a tremendous amount of restoration of our fisheries since 1976 when it was passed. And so there's a lot of really important things out there that's a federal policy that was enacted that's getting revised. Every 10 years it's on deck now to get revised again, and it hasn't quite moved forward. But there's some really fantastic things that are going on with our fisheries, and these organizations are all on the forefront of bringing those realities forward. Yeah,
and you something with Magnuson-Stevens that I got more familiar with because of Lucas is the fact that in terms of it being a success story is that it really kind of is the perfect model for marrying policy with science to generate a positive outcome. And honestly, it's not viewed in that way, but I think it should be going forward as a model for success for how you can marry policy with conservation and with a positive outcome.
Unique story is that we're talking about something that we're just looking to maintain the status quo. because Magnuson since the 90s has rebuilt over 40 stocks. I mean, this thing's working, and it's important to note that a lot in today's, sort of fisheries management is about updating, modernizing, changing, and there are things that definitely could be modernized. But the reality is that for once we're asking it just to stay the same. I mean, and that's in today's ever changing world. It's hard to find many things that you can say has worked and has been updated properly over the last 40 years, and that we're just saying, keep the conservation parts in it and the science as well. And I think that's extremely important. What you said, Rick, is that marriage of science and policy, and letting science dictate policy versus policy dictate science, is something that we could all use a little bit more of in today's world.
What areas, I guess, or can you provide a little bit of insight of maybe where y'all are going to go with this in terms of what areas will you start with, or what do y'all have any sort of plans laid out already?
Yeah, so we've got 4 on the books right now. We're going to start with one involving stripers, and we're going to be covering kind of the Mid-Atlantic all the way up to the coast of Maine on that one. I'm going to be working with the American Saltwater Guides Association on that one. We've got a steelhead one from my neck of the woods, and that's going to be with the Wild Steelhead Coalition. And we're going to have some great folks on there from Oregon and Washington chatting about that issue. We've got a redfish one down in the Gulf that Lucas is going to be spearheading. And then we've got a bonefish tarpon one with BTT that's also on the books for Florida.
Sweet. No, that's a good, that sounds amazing, actually. I'm looking forward to this. And when is that first one getting kicked off?
The first date is going to be May 7th.
May 7th. So this is, I have no idea what day it is. Today is Monday.
Quarantine day. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. Today's Monday, April the 27th. So we're talking roughly a week and a half from today. So whenever people are listening to this, you'll be hearing in about a week, you'll be seeing the first conservation from the couch Zoom panel discussion. Are y'all able to share who's going to be on the first one, or?
Yeah, we're going with the striper one first.
Okay, all right, cool.
It's gonna. I mean, not that this is sort of a happy accident, but it most likely will sort of head clockwise around the country. So Northeast, Florida, Gulf, and then up to the Pacific Northwest.
Right on. That's really cool. And hopefully, and maybe this is, I don't know if y'all had this in mind when you came up with this concept and idea, but hopefully it'll show the interconnectedness of all of this, right? That there's not just one species, just because it's stripers, that doesn't impact other fish and fisheries that migrate to other fisheries and in other areas and things of that nature. And really, that's something that I've learned a lot through doing my podcast is you really are understanding, particularly now with COVID-19, especially the interconnectedness of everything now, just the world we're living in.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things that we need to be talking about that we aren't necessarily talking about. And when you bring together those connective threads, it creates a lot more power. And that's a lot of what Lucas and I are focusing on doing, which is how do you build a national coalition of anglers who care about this stuff, who talk about it, and who, what happens to stripers on the East Coast matters to steelhead on the West Coast. And so how do we connect those threads and build those bridges and create that coalition of strength?
Awesome. I love that. Y'all mentioned earlier, or when we first started the show, and I got this text from Lucas that y'all have gotten some support from the industry. Moldy Chum is involved with this, American Fly Fishing Trade Association. Can you elaborate on that, Lucas, for how that support has I guess benefited the idea?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like Paul said, that we've been working on is sort of a connection that resonates throughout. And to me, I think one of the biggest litmus that we're seeing to this point of whether or not we're tapping into something here is the fact that we've seen just really amazing support from our industry and coming together. And I think the important message here is that conservation is a unifying concept. It's something that because it runs through all of us deep, that it's something that we can break down, barriers and other things that may typically exist. So if you have, two companies who are in business and not necessarily rivals, but, working on towards the same goal, and this is something that you have your Orvis and your Umpqua and your AFTA, bringing all this stuff together, and you have Drake Magazine and Sustainable Angler and, Gink and Gasoline all working at the same time to say, you know what, this is what we need right now. This is exciting. This is fun. This is something that we could all use just a dose of innovation on the top. And I think there's just been no better indicator to me to this point of whether or not we're doing the right thing. It's the amazing support that we've seen. I mean, we've got, maybe 10 different brands now, Paul. I mean, it's a lot of folks so far. I mean, and like I said, different sources of media coming together, Moldy Chum and Drake and all these, and it's just, to me, it's just really awesome. It just indicates that we're all hungry to continue to do the good work. We're all looking for ways to be active participants in what happens in our fisheries. And right now, this is what we have. This is what we can do. And I love it. I'm absolutely excited about it. I know Paul is as well. This was something that, was conceived from the couch. And so from our couch to yours, it's really just been kind of an awesome ride so far. Hopefully we can back it up with some kick-ass events. That's the main thing now.
Well, and if it goes well, there's no reason it can't extend beyond the 4. This is something that, whether it be a yearly series or we extend it, moving forward, this was an opportunity that we're not of being stuck on the couch. But, hopefully it's something we can continue to do going forward, because we really love this idea of being able to connect, like if BGG never comes to Seattle. We don't see them up there ever. And so, we can follow what they're doing online, and we can, sign up on their newsletters, but it's going to be super exciting just to be able to see their faces and hear, the folks from that organization talk about the great work that they're doing, because I know I'm dreaming of going tarpon fishing right now in Florida, so I'm stuck here on the couch.
For sure.
So,
that's awesome.
And I think Paul makes a good point too. Just being aware is enough, to start, because the reality is that, a lot of what we do right now is species specific, it's regional focus. And so I don't know exactly what's going on in the Pacific Northwest, not from the people who are working on it. I know the general and sort of broad idea of what's happening, but man, getting that frontline view of what's going on from the people who are working on it and are intimately involved, I think is something that just getting a new set of eyes on an issue can be a huge impact in how that organization is able to move forward. I mean, imagine, the rush of support that could happen for an area that has been, isolated from maybe that larger coverage. Because look, the reality is as you know, Rick, whenever you're in the trenches and you're in there fighting for your species in your area, the idea of broadcasting out nationally may not be in your wheelhouse. It may not be something that you can either afford or have the ability to do. And so if we can bring focus to something that you've never seen before or never knew about, I think just having those new sets of eyes on it is going to make a huge difference. And the reality is that that's what makes this concept so simple and beautiful at the same time, because a lot of this is just about a lack of focus, and that, bad stuff happens when you're not paying attention. And so, increasing that expanse of broad base of people looking is I think going to be a really, really cool concept, which is why I hope that we find a way for this to live on. I hope that we continue to do this, because to me, as Paul said, we've been traveling around the country doing this stuff, and I came to Charleston and talked to y'all. Having this as supplement in between those is really, I think, going to be really cool and important, because this is something that we can do for relatively cheap, and people can hop on for an hour, be entertained, learn something, and maybe go out and do something about it. So this is something that I'm really, really, really looking forward to. If you can't tell, I'm excited.
Well, no, I love that. And you bring up a good point too. And just sort of with staying positive about everything that's happening in the world is one, who couldn't use an opportunity to learn a little bit something new. But two, one of the positive outcomes from all this, like you said, is being able to have conservation from the couch be a springboard for not only education and awareness about issues, but also be able to reach new parts of the country where that message it's not falling on deaf ears. It's just not something they think about every day. I'm sure most steelheaders aren't, wondering what's happening with bonefish spawning, at all times and learning about that type of stuff. So I'm personally really looking forward to it because, like for stripers, I don't know a lot about striper fishing. So I'm kind of excited about that. And as well as steelhead. So this was, I guess my point is this is a really good opportunity and to have some laughs along the way.
Well, I think you bring up two important things there, Rick. One is that there are differences that are happening around the country. Important thing is that there's a lot of crossover in those issues that you are going to find. Just because you've never paid attention to stripers before doesn't mean that you're going to go, oh, that's also happening in this fish in my area. And that is the important message that I think we can all take from this, is that while the species may change, the crap that's hitting the fan is the same. And that there's typically very similar drivers that are happening in all of those areas, whether you look as broad as something as climate or as narrow focused as something as water quality. All of those things are affecting species in a very similar way. And the fights, while they may be in different areas, tend to be very similar.
Yeah, and the idea that we're stronger together and that we can make more of a difference and make more of a positive impact if we're fighting together. And so we all need to band together across the country to not only support for the issues, fight for the issues of backyards, but also in the destination fisheries that we hear about and we dream about, and that our friends guide in, or in the areas that they live in as well. So.
Yeah, I love that. And so so May 7th is the first episode, I guess. I don't know if episode is the right word, but first discussion. Where can people find this? Like, is there a website, or how is it going to be broadcast? How can we let the people know?
Yeah, so right now we are working on a litany of different promotional materials to send out. One of the cool things about having so many brands and partners in this is that every one of them are going to be sending this out via their social. So be on the lookout very soon to start seeing this stuff trickling out from all of the major brands that are in our industry, all of the major media sources. This podcast is going to be a really good way to kind of kick off that promotion. The exact sort of formula of how we're going to message this thing as far as advertisement, then you're going to start seeing that stuff, because we just have to get the back end set up on the Zoom part, with registration and things like that. So we just want to make sure that we have all of those kinks out before we start advertising it. But it's very soon. Today's Monday, so I would say long before the end of the week we're gonna have stuff out there circulating. And it'll be a matter of signing up and getting your spot and getting to be a part of it. And we are going to be taking some questions from the audience. So as these dates are announced, make sure that you think of your questions, and we'll pick a few of them via the chat portion of Zoom, and then we'll ask those at the very end, and ask funny ones too. So don't just make it about conservation. Ask the funny stuff too. I want to know what people are doing in all of this. If your regiments have changed slightly, we'll talk about that. If your eating habits have changed as mine have, we'll talk about those sorts of things. So, funny first, and conservation is going to be a nice bonus. So,
well, I just want to know. I might have to dial into the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. How can I catch bonefish from Crawheedy in my backyard?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the story with Crawheedy? Do you guys have nice sandy flats, or are you, more rocky and coral? What does the structure look like?
Yeah, right now there's a lot of oak. We have an oak leaf flat and pine straw flat that's happening. But every week that this goes by, I add one more component to to Crawheedy, and before this is said and done, there may very well may be a dump truck dumping sand in my backyard. So,
is that the official test as to when this has gone too long? Whenever
yes.
Crawheedy actually gets a beach?
Yes. When I have a for real beach in my backyard with white sand, you will know officially that I have flown off the reservation.
Unfortunately, I don't know that I have much runway left, if we're going to be honest. I mean, I'm starting to get to the end.
Everyone is. This is crazy.
I mean, I think Bissett Beach is, from what I the case.
Oh man, I can't tell you. We're mixing margaritas, and we got beach volleyball in the back. It's insane. I mean,
yeah. Well, Well, mine has gone crazy enough to where I've got Crawheedy, but my back screened-in porch is the Quarantiki Lounge, and that's you have a change of scenery there. You can come up to the Quarantiki Lounge, turn the fan on, cool off, or just head right on down to the beach. Enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Look, I'll know that you've officially lost it whenever you have a swim up bar at Quarantiki.
I do have a drainage ditch behind my house. We can get creative.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I figured.
Well, y'all, this is
slide, and you just belly up like an alligator right up to the bar.
That's right.
Well, yeah. Before we you hit the stop record button, two things for you. One, thanks to Brian Bennett, who I know is a past guest of yours at Moldy Chum. He's gonna, with his leadership on all of this, he's gonna be really driving this. And so you can not only find out about the upcoming events on Moldy Chum, but he's going to be posting all the videos too. So if you miss one of the screenings, you can always go on to Moldy Chum, and hopefully our other partners will be sharing that. And also importantly, with every single event, after the event, there's going to be a list of actions that you can take as well. And so, we hope that you tune in for the comedy and the conservation from the couch, but also importantly, once the video ends, we hope that people, take the part and take the actions that are listed and recommended by the folks that are on that call. And so, and then, I know, Rick, this is your podcast, but if you don't mind here, I think Lucas and I would love to turn the tide on you here and ask you a few of the questions that we've been pondering about that will most likely be featured on Conservation from the Couch as a little teaser for what's to come.
Oh, wow. All right.
Surprise.
Bring it on.
You've been busy, building Crawheedy Island, which, I'm curious also when you're going to just start trying to form your own government and what the tribal council is going to look like and how all that's going to work, if you're going to go with a parliamentary system or more of a republic democracy. But I don't know, Lucas, if you want to start it off with any of the questions that you've been pondering.
Well, I think the most important question is how long before you vote your own daughter off the island?
I'll vote myself off. She stays.
She's staying? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A good answer. Yeah, no, believe me, I was already like third in line in my house before we had a kid.
Yeah.
And now I've somehow dropped to like 10th, and there's not even 10 spaces. Like I don't even know how I got so low. But like the other day, my wife asked a neighbor if they wanted to move in, if I would move out. This is I only exasperated that to another level. I don't know if exasperated is the right word. I'm just making stuff up. But so one of the things that we were going to ask folks, and I think it's an important question, this is what inquiring minds want to know, is what is the most unique thing that you've done from the couch during quarantine that, we can air?
Literally from my couch?
From the couch. Like there's been like for instance, my couch has become all sorts of things. Like it used to be a couch. It used to be, I'd sat there, watched television, did that. Mm-hmm. Now it's a music stage because as we've talked about in the past, I've started to play guitar.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing full concerts for those tumbleweeds, tumbleweed audience. Yeah. They're quiet, but they are very attentive.
Yeah.
I'm doing like seminars now because my kid, I'm his teacher.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing full blown dry erase, presentations from the couch.
Okay.
Something I've never done before. And then the most important thing is we have lost all semblance of societal norms, and that food is now being consumed as the couch being the plate. Like we've taken it to the next level. So before we would eat like on the couch, but there was like an area that you stayed in, quarantined from the couch. Now, like the other day, my wife had like salsa like on the couch, and she just excavator scooping this stuff. And now, so there's like a block as an area of protection. I mean, the couch has become a whole nother part of the home, and that it's its own entity. It's multifaceted in its abilities. And so I'm just wondering, after that long explanation, what is the craziest thing you've done?
Okay. So some of the crazy things that I've done on the couch. One is I have one of those little Practicaster rods.
Ooh.
So the little like 2-foot rods or whatever they are, 3 feet. I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
So I've been hitting different objects in my home from the couch. So that's been fun.
So it's a boat.
Yeah.
So
it's a skiff.
Okay.
Okay. That's like, redfish, 2 o'clock, 30 feet. 30.
Yeah. Here, just put it right in front of it. 3
TV.
feet.
Right.
So my finesse game has gotten pretty strong. It definitely is the new kitchen table, like hands down. It's the only place I eat. I too have been playing more guitar and thinking that I sound great. There could be some sort of delusional recording studio maybe that's happening there. And
please tell me you've voice memoed some of your songs.
I will say this. I wrote a song, and it's probably going to be aired. I've been sitting in on my buddy Paul Puckett's podcast on Monday mornings, and we might actually sing it next week. So basically my point is we're completely going crazy. So I guess the craziest thing that I have done from the couch is lose my mind.
Well played. Well played.
Well, it sounds you might have some time this week to write a theme song for conservation from the couch.
Okay.
From your own couch.
Yeah.
That's it.
That we would be happy to share.
That's
I will, at the very least, I'll write a really terrible poem that you can read from the beginning or end.
Haiku.
Yeah, a haiku.
Conservation haiku. Yeah, I like
conservation coup. The couch coup.
The couch coup. Here we go. See, these are how the ideas start. This is it. Like
I'm an idea man.
I think what I'm going to start calling it is, instead of a sectional, it's going to be a delusional. Like that's what my couch is now going to be called.
I personally am a huge fan of the couch coup.
I think that all that brings to mind is that, Lucas's kid Wyatt coming in and pushing his dad off the couch and saying, "I'm in charge of the couch now." And it's a coup d'etat. The couch.
You're in my world now. That's awesome. Well, so what else? You got anything else for me?
Yeah.
All right.
What's the this is really a Lucas special too, so I'm sure he'll have plenty to answer on this one. But what is the strangest thing you've eaten from the couch during the quarantine?
The strangest thing that I've eaten from the couch. Geez, that's a good question. Well, they were in season, so I don't know if it's strange, but the most unique thing, and just so happened to be the most delicious thing that I've eaten from the couch, was a fried soft-shell crab sandwich.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not strange so much as there's a 2-week window in Charleston pretty much where the soft shell crabs are in, and While we have been self-quarantining, we do what we can to support local businesses in our area. And so there's a local seafood store when my wife was making the grocery run, and she scooped up a handful of soft-shell crabs, and they were delicious.
So unless you have the couch covering from a 1950s movie, that is a bold move, Cotton. That is a bold move, because I have consumed a number of soft-shell crabs, and to say that they are messy, have the potential to be messy, is an understatement. So kudos to you, Mr. Crawford.
Yeah, well, hey, look, there's always the leftover bits that you can, nibble on the next day. A little fried soft-shell crab leg, that's a treat.
The one that you find in the couch?
Yeah.
So I have been on a deconstruction movement with my food consumption. Last week I was deconstructing s'mores. This week I've moved on to pepperoni pizza.
Nice.
So this is a true scene. If you would have walked into my living room the other day, I had laid out before me in full Pearl Jam black style a bag of pepperoni, a bag of macaroni and cheese, and a can of black olives. And I was reconstructing a deconstructive pizza minus the dough inside my mouth, one or two pieces at a time. So
what I appreciate about Lucas so much is in an era where, everything is elevated, like this elevated sandwich or this elevated pasta. You can't get on a food blog without seeing the word elevated. He's just reduced. He's just taken the bare number of minimums. Like, it's the tang, just putting it right in your mouth. He's just like, I'm just going to take the pepperoni. I'm going to take a handful of cheese. I'm going to put an olive, in my hand, and I'm just going to throw it all in my mouth. I really appreciate it.
Well, the real skill to that is the cheese, right? Because cheese coming out of a pouch, like Big League Chew. You remember Big League Chew?
Yes, yes.
Crane hand into the mozzarella, squeezing it, creating a ball of the mozzarella, and I'm popping that into my mouth behind the spice of pepperoni, and then a little salty olive, and then before you know it, my pants don't fit.
That is a strong move.
You don't have to wear pants during this pandemic. So
that's it. No pants. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna have to take out a loan on wardrobe because I've outgrown everything I have at this point. I've got the quarantine 15 happening once a week. Like this is bad. Like I'm having to grow more neck beard to cover things. This is out of control. Like I have never not moved. I just did a double negative to tell you how little I'm moving at this point in this quarantine. I'm like struggling to get up off of the couch office teacher bench. Like the delusionals got me sucked in, baby. I am deep.
Let me tell you, I think everyone is feeling that. My couch is like my center of my universe right now. And
it's the sun. It is the sun.
Yeah. Aside from the, occasional walk out to Crawheedy.
We're all forming special bonds with our couches these days. And so, as Lucas said, like they are the sun in our universe.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious to know too, have you named your couch yet? And if not, what would you name your couch?
Jeez.
Well, you got Crawheedy going on, so it's going to be tough to top. But.
So I don't know that this will top. So I have not named the couch. At this point, I'm going to say I'm trying to come up with something really solid right now. I'm going to call it the Crawford Carnival Tour Mobile.
Mobile, I like it.
I don't know. It feels like there's a carnival going on in my house from my couch. It's kind of what it feels like. My 18-month-old daughter just running circles around the house, having the time of her life. I'm I'm using peanut butter like it's salsa dip.
I literally had to take the jar of peanut butter that's been sitting on my coffee table away because I found new and innovative ways to eat it. 2 days ago, I was using those little mini candy bars as a spoon and just like dipping them in like the old Dunkaroos back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, just double shoveling peanut butter directly into my gullet. I mean, it's bad. I mean, as a person who is climbing ever closer to pre-existing be like pumping the brakes, I've just put NOS in this car and I am flying at 400 miles an hour.
Oh, I am too. I'm going to edit the other one out. I've got a better one because I've been doing a lot of I've been doing a lot of things that are, you know, focused around escapism. So like I'm reading Tales of the South Pacific right now. I've been doing reading like Jimmy Buffett books, listening to reggae, you know, just trying to escape. So I'm going to say that the couch's name is The Vagabond's Couch, after one of my favorite authors and heroes, Don Blanding, who moved to Hawaii in the 1930s and wrote Vagabond's House, which if you're looking for some escapism, I highly recommend.
So the name of it was what? You broke up.
Vagabond's House. So I'm going to call my couch, because it is my mode of escapism, Vagabond's Couch.
There you go. A nomad vagabond, call me what you will.
Yeah.
Metallica style.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm trying to just live the dream from my couch. Special thanks to Lucas and Paul for joining me on the Sustainable Angler, and also for the amazing work that they're both doing trying to make a positive impact with conservation from the couch. If you're looking for a place to access this series, you can find that on Moldy Chum. That's moldychum.com. And thanks again for tuning in.